Imagine, if you will, a circle. Entering this circle is every American who has survived a trauma during which their life was threatened, they were rendered helpless, and their sense of normalcy shattered. Perhaps the most obvious image that comes to mind is the soldier back from war, but that is only part of the story. Being raped, robbed at gunpoint, surviving a serious car accident, escaping a deadly fire, or witnessing a spouse, child, or parent be brutally assaulted are also traumas. More than half of Americans will say that at some point in their life they have lived through such an event, and large numbers of them will report experiencing many such traumas. Indeed, exposure to danger appears essential to being human. Tragic stories of deadly floods, fires, hurricanes and earthquakes fill the pages of history books with alarming regularity, and the horrors that result from human-made disasters such as war, terror and torture provide bountiful evidence of humans' seemingly endless capacity to be inhumane toward one another. For the people in this circle, once the danger has ebbed, distress is natural. They may feel on edge, have nightmares, and be overwhelmed by traumatic memories. They may feel like this for hours, days, or weeks. But humans, by design, are psychologically resilient. The clear majority will heal with the passage of time. Now imagine within this circle a second, smaller circle of those who don't heal. At any given moment, a snapshot of the second circle would capture more than 6 million people. Despite no longer being in danger, they are unable to transcend their traumatic pasts. Instead, they suffer every day with invisible wounds. Some fall into oblivion and others seek revenge. These people have post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. It cuts to the heart of life, interfering with one's capacity to love, create and work. Incapacity brought on not by poor lifestyle choices, moral weakness or character flaws, but by a complex interplay among biology, genes and environment. PTSD is a disorder of memory famous for causing nightmares, flashbacks, and an exaggerated startle reaction. Lesser known but equally devastating is how it renders a person's emotional life barren. It mutes happiness and yields instead to an irritability that keeps sufferers on the perpetual verge of withdrawal from the world and alienation from those who love them. 80% of PTSD sufferers have at least one other psychiatric condition, typically depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, or anxiety, and all have a higher risk of death by suicide. PTSD seeps beyond the confines of the mind or brain. It impacts cells, organs, and bodily systems, and has emerged as a risk factor for various diseases, from cancer to heart disease to obesity. PTSD is so widespread that it can impact any of us, but the socially disadvantaged are most vulnerable. Unfortunately, only a third of PTSD sufferers receive treatment because it is tough to diagnose and a challenge to treat, a situation further complicated by the fact that sufferers are often hard to reach. PTSD can spread to anyone with whom the sufferer shares their lives. Trauma begets trauma. Most commonly affected are the sufferer's family members, who are at higher risk of developing depression, anxiety, and PTSD themselves. In cases of mass traumatization, such as torture, slavery, and genocide, we now know that PTSD's deep footprint can last for generations. The statistics speak for themselves. Most of us will, sooner or later, experience a potentially traumatic event. If you are fortunate enough not to have such an experience, the odds are that a loved one or others with whom your life is inextricably intertwined, in the community where you live, at the place where you work, where your children go to school or play, will be affected. None of us can afford to ignore PTSD.